Okay, so last August, someone messaged me from Facebook and asked me if I could make a Taiwanese costume for her daughter. Okay, so we exchanged some ideas. Some of them were pretty outrageous and inappropriate and uncomfortable, so I made my very comfortable version of it. So I then proceeded with the drafting of the slopers, and with that integrated the kimono sleeve pattern with the slopers. Extended the lower part of the sleeve into a half moon shape, okay, creating that distinctive kimono silhouette, and with a simple shift from the bodices. So now I'm just hand stitching the right side of the robe for the kimono sleeve. So I'm starting with the side seams and onto the underside of the sleeves with these running stitches. Okay, I had to do running stitches to stabilize this because I'm about to do French seams on this robe. Why French seams? Because it's a special kind of seam that, really just folds in the raw edges of the fabric. And in most high-end dresses, they use this, especially with sheer fabrics. And this kind of indicates that, much care was given into the construction of a garment. And plus, this also feels comfortable on the skin. So I'm just doing this on the shell or the right side of the fabric. So after that, I'm going to stitch it like half an inch from the running stitches. And after that, now I'm actually sewing on the wrong side of the fabric, the actual seams. So since this sleeve has a lot of curves, okay, I had to pin them generously. And while sewing it onto the machine, I had to mildly stretch it a bit so that there would be no wrinkles on the seams, no puckering. Okay, do this carefully so that your pin or your needle won't break. Stretch as necessary as possible, especially on the curvy parts like the lower part of the sleeve and the armpit of the robe. I think we're at the... Oh no, we're not yet at the side seams. Okay, so when you're at the armpit, just carefully stretch it, because that's where the troublesome part is actually when doing kimono sleeves. Okay, now when you're actually done with this, you have to make necessary slashes on the curvy seams, like the armpit part and the lower part of the sleeves, the half moon shape, or the round part of the sleeve. It's okay to make some slashes. It's French seams. It's pretty sturdy, and plus, it's just a costume. I think the kid will just wear this a few times in her lifetime. So we're almost done with our side seams, and just do the same with the other part. And voila. Okay, so here's our robe, and now I actually cut some leftover fabrics for the bands of this robe. Ideally, it should be on the bias, but since they're just scrap, I just cut along the straight grain for the bands or for the trimmings of this robe. And I also did some hemming stitches on the hems, of course. These are blind stitches. So on with our shift. I also did the same with the seam finishings. So I'm now making the bias binding for the neckline and the arm side. So for the bias binding on the neckline, I've cut bias binding or bias strip at an inch of a width, at a width of an inch rather, for the arm side. So with this, I'm doing fell stitches at a quarter of an inch on the banding. But actually, before I did this, I had to press both sides. So that's like press a quarter of an inch and a quarter on the other side to make this bias binding. Of course, that's what bias binding look like. And fold it in. And I actually exposed the bias binding on the arm side on the right side of the dress or shift dress, because I didn't have any room or allowance at the shoulder, because the length of the shoulder of the shift is just an inch. So I just decided that I'll just expose the binding on the arm side and just hide the binding on the neckline. Okay, I actually left the edges of these bindings open, and when I was about to finish, I just had to fold them together, or the excess, and I whip stitched the edge of the binding after doing this blind stitches. Okay, so after the arm side, I now proceeded with the neckline. So with the neckline, again, I've cut bias strip at a inch and a half. So folded them. And now I'm doing the same stitch as I did with the arm side. Still at a quarter of an inch. And really carefully. So when I was near the edge of the binding, I had to make tinier blind stitches on the allowance, because there was a bit of bulking there. Okay, I had to give an ample amount of allowance because I want the little girl, I want the client's child to grow into this dress. As much as possible, we want to create sustainability with our projects. So as much as possible, I want this dress to be used as much as possible, because this is the wearable part of the costume. It's just a basic shift. So now we're at our edge. Now I'm just using whip stitches, because whip stitches are much sturdier and much ideal when you're doing this part of the dress. Okay, and plus, the good thing about this is that I didn't have to use any lining or make a lining, because I didn't have much time. So that's the pretty of using French seams. When you're making unlined garments, this is really ideal if your fabric is really soft or lightweight. So I'll just add the hook and eye later. So that's our end stitch there. And here's our well-finished bounded shift dress. And after that, now I'm with the excruciating part of hand stitching the lace appliques. Now these lace appliques are just leftovers from a previous project for a client, so just hand stitched them. And thankfully, since they were bold and vibrant with their colors, pretty much ideal with the Asian theme of the costume, and it looks good, and vibrant colors really look good on children. With the leftover lace also, and some felt, I made a headdress for my client's daughter, and here she is. So again, thanks for watching. See you on the next video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.